All right, and we're recording. So how are you doing today, Batya Miriam?
I don't know, but it's a beautiful day. It's sunny.
It's a beautiful day and it's sunny. I like that. Now, for some of the people who are going to be viewing this, if you could tell our viewers, um, what has it been like being in the South, being in Kentucky, being in Virginia, and how do you find that compared to other places you've been?
Well, Kentucky's not really the South.
Okay.
Kentucky was, if you define that as people did in terms of the Civil War, it was a split state. Didn't expect to be back in the South. I was raised in the South, and I left it because I was a radical, crazy leftist when I went to school.
Okay.
So
tell it. Where did you go to school and what did you study?
I went to a small school in Maryland, which nobody's heard of, then transferred to Syracuse, and I studied English and psychology, and then I studied writing and comparative literature. And I don't recommend sending your child to a secular college.
Okay.
It messed me up very much.
Now, I think if I remember correctly, you have.
It took me a long time to get back to the conservative person that I am.
Okay, and so that's your mindset. But you have some advanced degrees, right? What did you study and what was your thesis on?
They're useless, completely useless. But I have a master's in fine art, which my creative area was poetry, and I have a PhD in comparative literature, and a bunch of stuff in between. But that's not really.
But how long? What was your thesis on? What did you prepare?
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
What was your thesis on when you did your PhD?
Oh, well, I hope nobody goes to the library to look for it because it was not really well written as much as it should have been. I studied. There's a poet who was at Cornell, a modern poet named A.R. Emmons, who wrote a lot about science, but he wrote about science really, at least from my perspective, from a religious point of view, in a way. And so I was analyzing that in terms of Taoism. I had studied most mystical schools, except, I'll be honest with you, Judaism was really hard to find. Learned later met a Kabbalist, but in school I didn't. In school I had a philosopher, and I really wish I could find this guy, because what was exciting about him, he was a complete atheist in philosophy, but you can tell that he had been to yeshiva somewhere, because he did a page. This was just for an introductory class that I was actually sitting in on to learn to use a device, actually. And he did a whole page of Gemara with Rashi just on the board. And it was clear to me, even though I didn't know anything about it, that he knew what he was doing in terms of how to look at something from a yeshiva point of view.
Wow, that's fascinating. So did you follow up with him?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you follow up with him?
No, because I knew that he wasn't going to take it seriously. Even though I read novels, and I can't remember the woman's name, about some traditional Jews that are atheists that maintain their traditions in the same way that Christians do. I had somebody that was really important to me at a camp when I was a teenager, and he later told me he didn't believe any of it. And he was a leader in his church, and I still can't process that, because to me it doesn't come from that. But you see, I've always been a black sheep. I never was a person who followed what I was given from the beginning. The only other thing that was of real value in my academic career, as I look at it, is just exposure to a lot of practical and theoretical models of religion. And I also had a big guy in religion and literature, which is what I wish I had actually focused on, didn't. Houston Smith. And in that, we studied the four quartets, and I sorry, I can't quote the section because I need to look it up, but there's a part of that where there's Hebrew in it. And it was like a window was open to me. I could see the holistic value of Hebrew.
Wow.
Just
So that
as
seems like a major
and
moment.
I remember just sort of going a little nuts when we did that.
It seems like a major moment in your journey.
Well, it was, I don't know if it was major, but it was definitely one of the pieces.
And it sounds like you've always been an independent spirit, thinking outside the box, and certainly not going along with whatever box people wanted to put you in.
Well, I think that's kind of the case, and I'm not sure it was always for the right reasons. It's interesting to need to sort out the arrogance with which you do things, and make certain that independence is taking you towards the appropriate mitzvah. And I don't know that we always do that. At least I know I haven't always.
So do you have a favorite poet?
Oh, not anymore. I did like Emily Dickinson a lot when I was younger.
And do you remember anything about your dissertation or having to defend it?
We didn't really defend it. The way things were done at this university, I had to take an oral exam over all this material that I had read, and all I can say is God must have been with me, because everybody on that committee, including my advisor, who was a really wonderful person, expected me to fail it. And I just got very lucky with some of the questions that people asked. It was stuff that I had really read, because I honestly had not reread everything on the list within 5 years, and I was just standing there hoping that they didn't ask about some of it.
Now how many years did you live in Louisville, Kentucky for? A lot of people have never been to Louisville. A lot of people here don't even know within our audience that there's a Jewish community there. So maybe you can describe a little bit how you got there. And yeah,
there is a Jewish community there, sort of. I was there 10 years. And when I got there, I had just really had sort of gotten to a low place. And I read everything I could find on Judaism one winter break, because I was in school trying to figure out, because I had lost a job in Baltimore, which was the wrong kind of job for me, even though I met somebody who was really important to me. Unfortunately, I've lost them as friends because they're not fun anymore. But, and so I kind of immediately just went and pretty much read all this stuff, and then found a rabbi in the conservative movement, because nobody said there was anybody in Orthodoxy who would convert me in Louisville.
And how long ago? How long ago is this?
That was, oh gosh, let me see. Sorry, my computer's making too much noise. 19, yeah.
About 20 years ago?
I think it was 1998.
Okay. And so what was that like, trying to find out the right resources to help you in your quest?
Well, the first thing was funny. I went to the university because I didn't know where to start, really. And the woman at Hillel, I don't know what form of Judaism she was, referred to this particular congregation that I did go to. And I figured, well, I'll just convert this way, and then I'll keep looking. So I did that, and then the best part of it is literally on the street. Now, this must have been in 2000, I think 2003. I, by then, had moved, was walking to school and doing all that. It's not that big a deal. I ran into the person who later became my mentor on the street, literally, one Shabbos morning, because she was looking for that conservative shul. And the reason was because of something personal in her life, she had to take a vow to bring people closer to Judaism, no matter what form of Judaism they were. And so I showed her where that shul was, and then we later got to be friends.
Wow.
And then I didn't know what to do in terms of the conservative movement because the rabbi required so little. The woman who went to the mikveh with me was very wonderful, and apparently her husband was really big, had lots of people, and I guess his sermons were really effective.
It sounds like even though you eventually go
ahead, Rabbi.
Even though you eventually transitioned to another congregation, it sounds like you made some good friendships along the way.
Well, she was my mentor through the whole process. No, the irony of the whole thing was I created a whole way to learn to do Torah trope and everything, and worked with the Hazan who had grown up in Israel.
Wow.
And so his Hebrew was good. I did that because I didn't know what else to do. And I know they hated me because I made them stay an hour and a half longer than they would want to do.
Wow.
But the whole process of having done all that, even though it's not halakhic and I would never do it today, it made me want more.
Mm-hmm.
So it was ironic that way. And so finally, my mentor got tired of hearing me complain about everything, like the lights in the bathroom, stuff they could have facilitated for us, but just weren't.
Wow.
She went down to. She talked to her rabbi Yehuda Schmidman, Olive Shalom, in Canada, and asked him what to do. And so she went down and talked to her God rabbi, and so she said, "Go talk to him. He's a nice man." So
okay, very interesting. So it sounds like
there with his daughter there, and she's now married with 2 kids, which is kind of fun to think of her as a 2-year-old walking in and out of this meeting. And he told me that, he didn't understand why I wanted to be Jewish, but he did understand why I didn't want to just be outward part of it, and that I could come to serve.
Okay, well, it sounds like...
Then they did not look at me. She told me this. I didn't know. They didn't look at me for 2 years. She went with me everywhere, so they had to have us. They couldn't tell us to go away because I was with her.
Wow.
And so I don't know whether they thought we were totally crazy, because I never formally had a sponsorship.
Well, it sounds like to me that you had quite
He had to approve it. I know that much because I overheard a conversation I didn't want to overhear, that I was sitting in another room.
It's very interesting to hear.
And then it was just this year that I ended up in Richmond because somebody wanted me gone from Kentucky, and it was just getting to be unpleasant. And I knew the director here, and so I applied for that job 2.5 years before I got it.
Yeah, tell people what you do. Tell people what you did here.
Now, but I did teach newly blinded adults Braille, and transition youth in the summer.
Sounds like you gave that. I'm sure you gave them a lot of great life skills, and I'm sure you had a certain kind of resiliency that a lot of these students didn't yet have, and you taught them, knowing you as we do, a greater sense of independence and courage and confidence. And are there any favorite stories from your teaching of these students?
Well, they're all really interesting people that I just, hope they have the courage to apply the abilities. And then the real thing that I see as the issue is that I really want the private sector to give people an opportunity to try to do jobs, because that's what's important for them as well as anybody else. No, they were amazing. There was a woman at the Defense Department, a Black woman who went to the school that I can't think of the name of, that is a sister school from Morehouse in Atlanta. It's a very good small liberal arts school.
Now, how long would it take people to learn Braille?
Well, it depends on how you learn it. In today's world, you would learn it with some technology, which is a good thing and a bad thing all at once. You would be able to learn the code probably within 2.5 months if you were really smart. and focused and not dealing with a whole lot of adjustments and not being connected with it, so you wouldn't have a lot of emotional stuff to go through. But then the trick is you would have to practice in order to really read either electronic Braille and then transition to paper Braille. But the issue is very few people are reading paper Braille anymore, so very few blind people participate in services. I guess they might get a header. I don't think they should be able to, personally,
Now,
to use some
what
electronic
about
device. But
yeah?
um,
What about the Jewish community over the last 20 to 25 years? What have you seen in terms of the development of the Jewish community to accommodate the special needs? And
I don't think there is. I think it's and I think there's fault on both sides. I think it's very complicated because of the embarrassment that people are afraid to bring to it. So a lot of people don't ask stuff, and then a lot of people don't say things that they could do. So it ends up kind of being a stalemate. It's just hard to say. I think it does work on an individual basis. Sometimes, even though the people, I had someone, and I didn't know this was going to be the case, work with me when I went to Israel, that I would never have used their training because it wasn't very challenging. But as individual tourist guides, they were very helpful in terms of making those accommodations.
what was it like for you to go to Israel for the first time?
I left my pillow there, and I actually tried to get it back and never could. And I should have just left myself there and not come back at all.
So you enjoyed it. It sounds like it was a very powerful experience a couple years ago.
It was amazing. No, I'd like to go back. I just can't figure out where I can live because I want to be able to walk somewhere. I don't want to be stuck. And I know the friends of mine that are in a frat live way too high up for me to be able to really walk anywhere, any distance to get to a store or anything.
Right.
So I know that would be a very workable situation.
Now you've made a lot of references to your journey, your quest in terms of conversion. As a Jew by choice, it's, as is often referred to, it's pretty amazing to encounter Torah with the adult mind. Do you have a favorite or one or two favorite aspects in terms of Torah that really spoke to you from a philosophical perspective, that really encouraged you on this journey that many people don't know about?
I don't know if I'd say a philosophical one, but I got terrorized one night because I just had this experience. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't want to say it was a voice from heaven, but it sure felt like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was yelling at me to get on with it.
Wow.
And so I was really scared. It was a good thing, but it was something I didn't want to repeat again.
Wow.
And then there were just a lot of things. Like, I know the first time I fasted for Yom Kippur, after it was all over, I just felt totally at home. I dreamed about one of the children in the rabbi's family. And I'm not sure why, because she was a little bit of a troubled teenager. She's not now, but she's grown and has kids. But so I don't know. It was.
So it wasn't a philosophical point as much as it was certain points of inspiration and moments where you felt just driven based on your experiences.
Yeah, it wasn't really it's so much an intellectual process.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to make it an intellectual process in a way, and my mentor kept telling me, just practice, just learn to practice.
Right.
And
Very
so for
interesting.
me, it was really strange. It was like I was learning as if I'd had, I don't want to say uneducated, but less educated Jewish parents. I was just discovering stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I read all the books on the list. It wasn't that. And the night before I finished everything, I stayed up all night studying with stupid notes, which was kind of dumb, but I was too paranoid to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because it took too long and I spent too much money. So
now let me ask you, you recently traveled to Germany, and can you tell us a little bit about, for most of us who haven't been there, what the German Jewish community is like today, or the European Jewish community, in comparison to what we have here in America?
Well, this was a small place relative. It was a town of 500,000 people, but it was a very, very small Jewish community. There was really just the Chabad family who were Israeli. And my friend who was at the European Music Center, she teaches music. It was her daughter and their family, the bar mitzvah that I was going to. And really most of the Jews in that town are Russian Jews, some of whom knew things and some of whom knew pretty much nothing. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting, and the people worked very hard to have meals for every Shabbos, not just for this bar mitzvah. You could tell, because I know Friday night they had some kind of birthday celebration. I walked in after having eaten with my friends at their house, and we had to be really careful because there was no arrows, so I was going to come back there and stay with Chabad so that I would be there for all the services, because there's no way I could have carried the book and all of the rest of it. Right. But
how can you?
I think they're a lot like out of town Jewry, in the sense that you just have to be committed to serve the people that are there. Uh-huh. And I think that's kind of what you have to do in out of town here. Although now
I realize, how is it that you manage to live life to the fullest and to do so much, travel to all these places, and I realize, you know, you've added to your library and you bring a sitter with you when shul's in session, and you have a chumash as well. And how do you manage to go about this and just not run out of energy and have the confidence to just carry on? Where do you think you got that from?
Oh, the energy. I don't know. I've always been stubborn. Mm-hmm. And I was in the first cohort of premature babies that lived, and so maybe we were just so stubborn that the neshama wanted to develop. I don't know. Okay. And I guess you kind of just carry on. My grandmother was kind of like that, although she lived in a very small town. So I don't know.
What do you think? What do you think people?
And it has its downside.
What should people know in the Jewish community, whether it be in our shul or whoever's watching this, about what do people not realize about those who are hard of sight or those who struggle with this disability?
Say the word blind, it's okay.
Okay.
It's what it is. What I think is very interesting, and this doesn't, I don't think it really matters whether one's Jewish or not. I think that often you're seen as somebody to help, and you're not seen as somebody who can help. Mm-hmm. And that actually is what bothers me the most. I don't like not contributing. I went to 3 different doctors trying to get allowed to have the girls at risk here, and I can't. Mm-hmm. This year. They wouldn't let me. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't even agree with those doctors, because I'm a rebel. I agree with the Great Barrington Declaration. I think we need to read it and go on with it.
Do you have any students? Do you have any students that keep in touch with you?
Category. The young people need to go on. We need to work. Need to go to school, and we need to let that happen.
Okay. Do you have any of these students that went on to careers from that kept in touch with you at all?
I don't know. The only one that really succeeded has gone on to school, mm-hmm. but I don't know where she is, because she just finished high school last year. So, and I made peace with one of them that chose to leave in the middle of the year, although I'm trying to get her stuff back to her, and she keeps forgetting to give me an address. But that's the kids.
Yeah, how many years did you teach the blind these skills for?
I'm sorry.
How many years did you teach? How many years did you teach for?
20 years, a little over 20 years.
Wow. Well, before that,
I was teaching in academia.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. Most people do not realize what it's like to go through a conversion. Most people don't realize what it's like to live in the Jewish community as a blind person. And frankly, we all kind of watch how you journey through this process, whether it's going to Israel or just going to shul, but being able to experience all that the global Jewish community has to offer. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate some of your insights and the incredible journey that is your story and how you got to Beth Israel and the Richmond Jewish community. And thank you very much for sitting for the interview.
Thank you, Ron.